go ahead and get started. Hopefully others will be joining us. We're glad that you joined us virtually today. Along with Breezy Gutierrez from PED, several NS for Ed colleagues are joining us today. Dr. Jamisa Williams, Vice President of School Services, many of you have met. Holly Noel is our Director of School Counseling. Dr. Lenny Howard, Senior Leadership Coach. Gwendolyn Bell Glenn, Leadership Coach. As we want to be sure we have ample time for collaboration and discussion today, we're going to jump right in and get started since we only have 2 hours. First up today, we're joined by Judy Cruz from PED CCRB, Education Administrator, to share with us some brief graduation updates. All yours, Judy.
Thank you, Kelly. Can everyone hear me?
We've got you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I will be co-presenting with Lynn Vasquez. I'm not sure if she's able to make it into this meeting yet, but I'm going to go ahead and give my portion. So Kelly, I am going to share my screen. Give me just one moment to do that. Okay, can you see our slides that says graduation requirements? Can everyone see that? Making sure. How about now? Okay, great, great. All right, so let me just make sure that Lynn isn't here yet.
No, Judy, I'm here.
You're here. Okay,
Yes.
Lynn. I'll go ahead and let you get started and then I'll go from there.
And Lynn, I introduced Judy. I will introduce you as well. Lynn Vasquez is here with us, Division Director of PED's Assessment Office. So.
Yeah, welcome everybody. And Kelly or Judy, if you want to advance to the next slide.
Sure.
Okay. We provide you this slide just as a reminder that graduation requirements are twofold. There's coursework requirements, which is handled by Judy's office within College and Career Readiness, and then there's demonstration of competency requirements or assessment related requirements, which is handled by my office. And it's when students are able to meet both the credit requirements as well as the demonstration of competency requirements that equate into receiving their diploma of excellence. Also for you, there's a few links here on this slide, which include the state statute for graduation requirements. And then related to that, for the demonstration of competency piece, the rule or the NMAC for the demonstration of competency, as well as a notation in another NMAC or rule called the Standard for Excellence, which mentions the passing of state assessments. The next slide, I believe, is yours, Judy.
Thank you, Lynn. So my presentation is short and hopefully sweet. If you haven't heard yet, the governor did veto House Bill 126, which would have changed the graduation requirements for the incoming class, the ninth grade class, the cohort 2024 and 2025. So since the governor did veto House Bill 126, the graduation requirements do remain the same as they are now. And I also did put some resources on this page here that shows the governor's letter with her veto information. And then also, in case someone's not familiar with our current graduation requirements, there's also a link to our website on the slides. And I know that Kelly had mentioned that she's going to be sharing these slides with you.
Although, just as Judy said, that the Course requirements did not change with House Bill 126 being vetoed. What I do want to share with you is that we are revisiting the demonstration of competency. There's a mention about competency in the current statute, and that demonstration of competency has changed a lot over time. And here what I'm showing you is kind of the progression of that. So if you're familiar with, if you've been here in New Mexico for a while, back from 2018 and earlier, what you see on the far left was this demonstration of competency manual. And back then we used this language of primary and alternate. We had primary demonstration of competency, which might have been the state assessments at that time, whether it was the standards-based assessment or PARC or TAMLA. And then we had a series of alternate demonstration of competency, which back then existed about like 82 or 86 end of course exams. And then if you recall, for those of you who have been here for a while, there were times where students could take those assessments up to 3 times possibly. And it was a lot of retesting for students. Again, and then back in 22, right before the Skandera-Roskowski administration exited, they had revised the graduation manual. It ended up being a 79-page manual, and there were again these complex structures of primary and alternate demonstrations of competency, but they also included college career pathways or completers. That manual actually never went into effect. When Michelle Lujan Grisham, when that administration turned and came in, they looked at the manual and they said, wow, this is really horrendous. There's a lot here. And then that ended up being changed to this kind of one-pager view of what we call the menu of options to demonstrate competency. And in this menu, what you see on the far right, we had the structures where there was a certain cut score for state assessments, but then if they didn't pass those state assessments by meeting those cut scores, students could leverage an ASVAB score, a work key score, an IB score. There's a slew of assessments that were provided in these menu of options, and it was not a primary or an alternate. It wasn't that the students first had to pass their state assessments. What this did was kind of leveled. It said that any one of these options in the 5 subject areas could get students to demonstrate competency. So when you look at the graduation statute, we know that it asks students to demonstrate competency in the subject areas of math, reading, writing, science, and social studies. Just for your reference, we are one of less than 12 states that actually require passing of a test to graduate. People often wonder, why are New Mexico's graduation rates so historically low? Or in part of that is because we have this kind of this pathway or the series of assessments that students had to get through, and we felt like those tend to be kind of gatekeepers, whereas lots of states don't have this testing requirement. And if they do have a testing requirements, it's generally just in math and reading. But here in New Mexico, our graduation requirements require students to pass a demonstration of competency, not in just 2 subject areas, but actually 5. And so this menu of option laid out, here's assessments that students can leverage for science, here's assessments that students can leverage in social studies, and so forth. So that has been kind of the history of the demonstration of competency piece. What I want you to know, and this is on the next slide, is that menu of options was greatly impacted by the pandemic. And here what I'm showing you by cohort, and by cohort we mean by the year that the students are set to graduate. So what you'll notice is that NMAC 619-7, which was really that 79-page graduation manual, did not apply. We suspended the demonstration of competency for the following cohorts. So then on this slide, what I've linked for you is the PED memorandum regarding cohort 2023, which is this year's seniors. Those seniors do not have to meet a demonstration of competency. For those seniors, passing their course is good enough to pass the demonstration of competency. There is no additional test that those students have to meet. For cohort 2024, again, they only have to participate in Title I assessments. So those spring Title I assessments, remember, cohort 2024 are juniors this year. As juniors, they should be taking the SAT or DLM or ASR or DLM Science, whichever ones that the students qualify for. But they must take or they must participate in those assessments. They don't have to achieve a certain cut score in order to graduate, but they must participate in those assessments. In the next slide, what I want you to know in terms of what's happening with the demonstration of competency, there's actually a subcommittee. It's our State Assessment and Accountability Advisory Committee, what we call the AAAC. It is a group of 25 representatives from across our districts. They're typically STARS coordinators or district test coordinators or accountability leads at their districts. There's a subcommittee of them actually in the process of revising our demonstration of competency. The idea is that they would put that revision forward to make changes in NMAC in time for the beginning of this coming school year, so that districts are informed what will be the requirement for cohort 2025 at the start of this next school year. And again, going forward from including 2024, but that memo is already out. But when that rule is revised, we know that participation in Title I federal assessments, again, that's SAT school day, DLM, assessment of science readiness, that will be required for those cohorts as one of the requirements for graduation. The next slide. So again, we know that our evolution has been this 21-page manual with lots of end-of-course exams and the option to keep testing and retesting. And then we went to the 79-page manual that never went into fruition, but was quickly converted into this menu of options, one-pager. And then just so you know, that AAAC, as a reminder, they're revisiting what demonstration of competency would be. One of the things that we were trying to do was to get away from a laundry list of assessments. However, with the veto of House Bill 126, the governor's office sent a clear signal that they did not want graduation requirements to be watered down. And so just know that there's a group of districts working to revise demonstration of competency, and that will be announced at the beginning of this coming school year. The rule will have to go through public comment, and so when that does go through public comment, we'll work with CCRB to make sure that your stakeholders are aware of that rule change and when public comment period is. And I believe, Judy, I think that's the just one more slide, or I guess that's the tail end of the slides. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
the
think
end.
that's it. Yeah. Okay. Any questions there?
So Lynn, if I understand this correctly, whatever is determined with this AAAC, if it is put into place, it will not go into effect. It will only impact cohort 2025
and forward. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Now, there may be some other questions. I knew there were questions based on House Bill 126, but with changes, any other questions?
I have a quick question. The requirement for dual credit honors AP, that's still part of the graduation requirements at this point?
Hi, Christina. Yes, it is. It's still part of the graduation requirement.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
You're
I will
welcome.
get a copy of this and I will share this with everyone too.
I have a question. I apologize. I came in a little later. My administrator told me the governor vetoed these new graduation requirements. Is that not accurate?
Yes, the governor did veto House Bill 126, which would have changed the graduation credit, the coursework requirements.
I have a quick question myself in regards to the requirements. Does that include the moving of health to ninth grade?
So currently, students can take health in their 8th grade year, so that will still remain intact.
Okay, so it's not a
So our
requirement.
current graduation requirements, since the governor did veto House Bill 126, the graduation requirements for coursework as we know them will continue intact.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? If you do think of some questions later on, our contact information is on this page. Feel free to contact me for coursework requirements or Lynn for assessment requirements. And Kelly, we will forward you these slides.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you
Sure.
both for popping in to answer any questions people might have. Thank you. So
And
now
please
we're
feel, yeah, I was just going to say, if you think of questions after this, please feel free to email us. There's a general ped.assessment inbox. The main thing is if you have juniors this year, because they are cohort 2024 and they needed to have participated in a Title I assessment, just make sure that your juniors are taking their state assessments this spring. If you have a junior that's sick, let's say, or they have a medical exemption, let's say they get into a traumatic car accident and for some reason they can't come into test, the seniors will be allowed to participate in testing as seniors in order to meet that graduation participation requirement. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Kelly, I need to,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Kelly. Hi, Kelly. I need to jump off here at 1 o'clock, but I just wanted to give some updates if no one has heard anything yet. So CCRB has a $40 million budget this year that we are, we've got a lot of initiatives going on and so forth. So most of the funding will go to increase spending in next gen funding, as well as innovation zones for schools that are wanting to apply. And so this kind of ties into those graduation requirements and requirements that schools have for students in specific pathways to assist them with their, their college and career experience. One of the things that we were looking at was possible support for early college high school within that budget too as well. But I'll have to, for all of you, I'll have to get with Kelly to see what specific things are needed. Like, so we have money for CTSOs too as well. And what I did was I went to each CTSO and I asked them, what is the main funding issues that you have from your advisors asking, for supports with funding. And so we were able to compile that. So we're going to need your help with determining your feedback as to what things are needed in order to support early college high school. I can't promise that that you are going to get funding, but this is a possible, this is possible. So just getting feedback as to what supports you need that the funding can contribute to increasing our early college high school designation quality, as well as what supports you need to make sure that you are carrying out a quality early college high school program. So I just want, I'll get with Kelly as to maybe she can send out a survey to you all so that you can fill out with those needs and wants and the justification for how they would, assist in upping your quality of your early college high school programs to providing those opportunities for students. So I just wanted to give you an update on that end with the budget. There's other things that we're contributing to. So we'll be assisting with some funding to help with graduate profiles, which were nixed in House Bill 126, but we are still moving forward with that important work to provide supports for schools through Innovation Zone, and schools that don't get Innovation Zones, you will still also get some supports to assisting you with creating a profile of a graduate. We're looking at next step plan work too as well. So there's a few initiatives that we have budgeted within this funding. So I just wanted to give you all an update on that.
Thank you, Breezy. Just the possibility is great. So I agree, a survey is a great way to go. So be on the lookout for that. That will come from me. Be sure that you fill it out as soon as you get it, because the more information, the sooner we can have it, the better for you, and the more likelihood that we can get some funding for you all. So now we'll move on to our counselor panel. And I want to thank Holly Noel, Director of School Counseling for NS4Ed, for putting together a panel for you to address some of the questions that you've shared via Nearpods and Padlets, wanting some additional information. So Holly?
Hello, good afternoon. As she said, my name is Holly Noel, and I'm the NS4Ed Director of School Counseling. And today I have some really great counselors here with me. I am going to start by sharing my screen so I can get everything pulled up so I don't miss anything. Oops, what's happening? Sorry. Yeah, I want. Oops. That's not what I wanted. Sorry, it's not. Where's my button? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay. So today I am joined by 5 school counselors, some from traditional high schools and also some from early college high schools. And the whole purpose of this panel is really to discuss, where we currently are, end of year tasks, duties, what's happening in the school counseling world, how we are supporting our students, how we are working along with our principals, all of this really great stuff that I believe should be a part of the conversation year round. And so we are truly appreciative and grateful for this opportunity to be here today and to, again, start this conversation. So today I am joined by Christina Estrada, Marilee Sage, Stacy Van Meter, Timothy Knowles, and Evelyn Martinez. Hello. Thank you all for joining. So we are really just going to dive straight in and have more of an open discussion between us, because that's what we're here for. I do have a few engagement activities in here because I want us to be alert and aware, it's afternoon and stuff like that. So we're going to get started. All right. Hopefully my computer is just not happy. All right. So we are going to start with a poll. I am going to drop a link right here in the chat for you all, and you should be able to, you might have to, that's just the thing. So you might just have to copy and paste that. Is that working for everyone? Let me see. And then I am going to share this screen. I don't know what's happening here. Okay, present. All right. So when I was talking with the school counselors and we started this open conversation, we thought that it was a really great idea to kind of start off with our foundation before we jump directly into our duties, because this really is vital to who we are and what we do and how we carry out our tasks as school counselors, especially at this time of year. So the first question, I already see you guys diving straight in, and that's, how well do you understand the importance of the principal school counselor relationship? So for school counselors, this is actually a whole topic, a whole content area that we have to cover when we are studying to become school counselors, because it is an extremely important relationship. And so what I want to do now is I'm so happy to see 100%. All right. And then, kind of get it. And that's very honest. And I appreciate that, because as school counselors, sometimes we hear, what all do you do? What's happening? Like, what's happening at this point in time? So this really gives us some great feedback. All right, let's see. I'm going to give it about 10 more seconds, see if any more numbers come in. Okay. All right, so we have 80% saying very well, you understand it. 10% kind of get it, and 10% not well at all. Thank you for your feedback. We appreciate that. So now I am going to, I can't go between, the screens when I do the polling, so I have to change it. Sorry about that. So now I'm going to dive right into my school counselors. You guys, it's time to come off mute and let's chat a little bit. So school counselors, why is this relationship so important to us, and why do we need it in order to carry out our roles as school counselors? I got 5 of y'all here. Come on.
I'll go first. My name is Marilee Sage, and I'm a counselor in Las Cruces. I am at Oregon Mountain High School, a traditional 4-year high school. And I would say probably for me and my department, there's 4 of us and we have about 2,000 students. I just think the trust, the relationship with the trust with whether it's trusting us so that we're doing the right thing as far as credits, graduation, trust as far as mental health support, professional development, that we're actually going to things that are beneficial for us. And I think that that's really important. I think it's also, we're not seen as admins, but I know I think staff may look at us as people that they go to for resources. If admin's not available, they'll come to us, personal things, student concerns, different things like that. So I just think that knowing that they have a place to go, I'm blessed that I work in a district, and I know there's some other people here from my district, that we have a really strong counseling department district-wide. And I think that that helps. I know the couple of people on this Zoom, I go to them continually for like dual credit help, graduation help, a little bit of personal things too. And so I think just having those open relationships, trusting, being very transparent about things that are going on with our schools is definitely helpful. So I would say for me, it's just a lot of trust and valuing us as professionals, valuing us, our experience, our education too.
That was perfect. Anybody else want to chime in? She covered a lot, right?
Let's see if I don't mess up, but I totally agree with her. This is to have that partnership with your principal, so that way they understand how busy you get throughout the year, when to come in and come out, and how much to lean on you is to me just like one of the best parts of that relationship, because we can always go to them, especially like I'm one of the senior counselors. I'm the senior counselor, so it's easy for me to run in and talk to the principal if I need help with one of the seniors that aren't doing their job, or McKinney-Vento is also another thing that we like kind of roll into. So there's like a lot of pieces of little programs that we have our hands in. So that right across the board is very, very helpful to be involved with them.
Absolutely. And as you all heard right now, like just from those 2 counselors, they were kind of like listing off all these different duties and tasks and boards and committees and things that we are a part of. And that's really like the main thing, just understanding like the full scope of our role. And again, like you just said, how many, hats we wear, our hands are on a lot of plates, and just understanding that when it comes to time management, trust, balance, and all of that. Okay. So counselors, what is one thing you think all principals should know about school counselors? What's something, right? You got them right here. What's something you want them to know?
That we do more than just mental health. We also do academics and mental health intertwined. It's weird how it kind of meshes in, but it really does do that. So that's the one thing that I would like them to know, is that academics is a big part of our job.
One thing I'll chime in here. One thing that I've noticed is, and I'm pretty sure that my principal knows this because he had my job as a counselor before I came here, and we've known each other quite a while. But one of those things is a big thing is, being an advocate for the student. You run into issues, especially this time of year, where a lot of our students are in multiple college classes, and maybe a class just didn't work for them or wasn't working. And you've got deadlines coming up where, classes have to be dropped, and it's become a little bit more complicated as far as a student being able to get out of a class. So they come to me for strategies on what to do. I'm not getting a good grade in a government class, and you want them. You don't want them to, you hate the idea of them dropping a class and then, having to retake it. But at the same time, you don't want them to get a bad grade, which is going to affect their GPA. You want them to be able to, kind of balance things out and let me know, like, okay, well, if you're not going to make it in that class, then let's come up with a way so we can get you out of there. And that may be them not being able to drop it, but it may be them being, having that conversation with the professor and then asking the professor to give them a W. So again, it doesn't tank their GPA. So that's always a big one. I think that, principals know that, or need to know that, we're there to advocate for the students. We're trying to help them do what's in their best interests. Sometimes they may have a different view of that, and maybe, certainly teachers and others might have a different view of it, but we get to hear the story and then, advise them, to go on and do something that will hopefully solve their issue.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So here is the next poll that I would like to ask you all before we get into our deeper content that we're going to discuss. So if you could go back to the poll, I am going to, oops, if I can, come on, there it is. Sorry, trying to slide between screens. Where did it go? Okay. Oops. And present. Back here. All right, so the next poll. What do you believe is the most demanding time of year for counselors? Beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year? Okay, it's moving. Give a few more seconds. All right, I think we're done. So we have 14% at the beginning of the year, nothing in the middle of the year, and then end of the year with a whopping 86%. Oh, it just changed, 88% for end of the year. All right, so school counselors, let me get this back up. What's the answer to this question? What do y'all say?
I think when we talked about this, when we met last week, we talked about seasons, and we talked about it's kind of like a season, like good things come and wind and kind of a little bit crazy, but definitely probably the beginning or the end. The middle is kind of nice. You've kind of gotten to flow, but that's where other things come. I know different, like I mentioned, professional development, different things that you have going on, maybe committees. I know dual credit is kind of in the middle the middle-ish, not at the beginning or not at the end. So there's always something else coming. It's never like you're really finished. I think the beginning, just the craziness of trying to get so many kids in so many right spots, and then the end of trying to get kids in those spots for the next year, as well as trying to get them out. So I agree. I don't know. Every time I think like the beginning's really, really hard, but then I know the end's still coming, and then it never really ends. It just kind of flows into the next year. So I think that the responses of 88 and 14 were pretty, or 13 were pretty right. They're both pretty crazy. I don't know if one of the other counselors wants to add what we talked about more.
I say, when people ask me if I'm going to be okay, I tell them to ask me after May. It's all busy. You know, you do the scheduling and everything at the beginning. You have to identify kids that you're going to have to bring back for summer school in the middle. So you start your semester identifications there. And then the end for graduation and end of year, summer school stuff starts. So it's busy pretty much all year round.
Absolutely. When I asked them this question initially, they all just kind of laughed and chuckled because they're like, year round all the time. Because like you said, it's just always flowing into something else. And so, yes, right here, we're at the end of the year. So now we want to dive into some end of the year tasks that we are currently doing, because it's that time of year. It's really busy right now. And so one of the main things that we want to touch on while we have your attention is transcripts. So transcripts are kind of like the foundation. Everything kind of stems from transcripts. It's the big thing, right? So we really just want to spend some time digging and diving into this so that we can inform you all about what's happening, what's taking place. So counselors, let's talk transcripts. Who's all involved in the transcript process? Well, who do we need?
Here at Alamogordo, we're supposed to have we have 4 or 5 counselors, and each of us will review the transcripts as they come in. So the 9th grader will review theirs, a 10th grader will review theirs. When we have new students, we have one student success advisory lady that I had her start putting in the transcripts for new students to audit them. But we're kind of auditing them throughout the whole year, making sure that they have all the classes that they need. We'd have a separate form to do at the high school here, a separate form to do the audits, to make sure that they don't have to do the summertime and stuff like that. And I'm the final one, the senior one, when they finally get to me, to make sure that everything stands in line with what they need. It's kind of how we do it. I kind of hope that there's always an easier process. So I'm really interested to see what somebody else says.
Who's needed? Does anybody else need anybody else? Like, who's all involved in this process for any other schools?
I know at our school, the transcripts from new students, those classes or those credits are entered by the registrar. And then there's a couple of us who actually do the scheduling. I do the seniors, next year seniors. And then we've got a couple other folks who help out with registration. And, one is our CEO, as I said, he's been a counselor himself. And then we have a student success advisor who also, will schedule incoming freshmen and some of the other students. So I guess the thing that I found most helpful is check and double check yourself. Sometimes, you think something, and you think so-and-so has this credit in that class, and it could be a matter of maybe a school sent out a transcript and they didn't have the final grades in, or there was something there. So it's always good to be skeptical and look at them several times. I know in our student management information management system, I'll cruise through several times a year to make sure that I've pretty much got, I've got pretty much what I think I have, and there's not any surprises. So I go over them multiple times to make sure that we're in good shape.
Awesome. Yes. So sometimes we have the registrar, the student success. Of course, like teachers are somewhat involved because they have to make sure that they're adding the grades in and that that's all stored accurately. And, if there's any incompletes, those things have to be reviewed. Admin, sometimes have to be aware of any incompletes, withdrawals for the early college students, making sure that everything just aligns with, again, what Ms. Vasquez and what Ms. Cruz was talking about before, those graduation requirements. Like that is like our foundation. That's like our blueprint, making sure that our students are checking off all of those requirements. So that kind of leads us into what's needed to start the process. So we have the graduation requirements, that's our blueprint. We have our student grades, and then we have our auditing process. And this auditing process that they're all referring to, it is truly a process. And so I'm going to ask you all to kind of talk us through what this process looks like, what you're looking for, what changes occur. What does this look like for you all? You sigh. You get that?
I know, but it's hard to explain just in one probably, and it's hard to not have like a chalkboard up here and circles, and then there's some math in there and all kinds of craziness. But I would say for me, we're, like I said, we have about 2,000 with 4 of us. We have about 500 each, but we have all grades. We don't split by grade level. So for me, I always start with my seniors because those are the ones that I know if that column that says needed is not a 0, then there's an issue, and it's either they're behind on credits, I missed something, God forbid, knock on wood, this is not the year for that. But and I always just follow up and make sure like all dual credit that's included in there. Many of the students, if they are possible athletes, I've already reviewed their transcripts for like NCAA eligibility, things like that. Usually, hopefully they've been reviewed for scholarships, things like that. The top 10, we actually do a manual calculation to make sure that everything that's included, for the final GPA, for the valedictorian, salutatorian. So those have been looked at, but I always start with seniors, looking for Englishes, all the math that they need. I even on our transcripts, we use Synergy, and there's a little box that shows the honors AP credit. And so sometimes it kind of gets hidden underneath. So I use a lot of highlighting just to make sure. And I think it's something, this is my 10th year at the high school. I was at the middle school counselor before that. And I think it's something, just little tricks that, this year we were blessed to bring up a counselor from the middle school. And it was a good learning experience for us because I couldn't just be like, oh, you got to do your transcripts. I had to explain, and we had to show her how to do it. So it was kind of a step-by-step process. And it was like, well, this is something I do, but someone else might do something else. But I think it's just a real review. It's one of those that, just like Tim was saying, I run them several times throughout the year because there's been little things where something did count as an elective and now, or as a science, but now it's counting as an elective. And with, I know the graduation that they were showing earlier with all the different changes, our district, we had gone from, when I first got here, 29 credits, and now we're down to 22. So there was different requirements in there. And so just making sure that something funky doesn't happen. And sometimes it can be like something with our system that got changed that we didn't know about. So I think just running them continually. Freshmen, right now, just kind of looking and seeing maybe they didn't pass anything, or maybe they, I know you mentioned health as a high school, making sure that they got credit for anything. If they came in from another district, making sure they're getting credit, the right thing. We all code different things. Sometimes if you're not sure, our registrar, we're blessed, we have a really good registrar that will kind of dive deep and actually call and say, what is this transition to something, and find out what it actually was. But there's, a little investigative on these just to make sure everyone's in the right thing. But knowing what you're looking at, knowing what the requirements are. We also, when we start registering for next school year, we have the students actually do a transcript audit. We have a whole PowerPoint that explains them. They run their transcript in Synergy and under their course history. And so they actually do one too. Our advisory teachers do one every year. They have the same kids for 4 years, so they do them every year. Granted, they don't do fine-tooth comb it like we do, but at least there's several eyes on them. This year, as the first time ever, we did like a peer review, and We did it at December, and I think we're going to do it in the summer, where we peer reviewed. I switched with one counselor, and we looked at each other's transcripts. And it was really good to have someone. It was a little vulnerable to have someone look at your transcripts, because I've been looking at them for 3 years. But it was really good. They caught little things that could be fixed, and they kind of just a fresh set of eyes for something for a senior transcript that was really important. So I think we're going to keep doing peer reviews of transcripts this year. But that's kind of just something that we do. It is scary.
Thank you for sharing that. I really like those ideas of the peer review, you know, for students to look over their own transcripts, but then back to the peer reviews for you all to share. Because like you said, we look at these transcripts all the time. And, you know, when we're looking at something over and over again, we can miss stuff, right? We're human. So I really think that that's a really great strategy. Anybody else, what your transcript process looks like for auditing?
One thing I did forget is, again, I know it's been said by a couple of folks, but we give the students a copy of their transcript, senior transcript at the beginning of the senior year. It's probably, I don't know if it's just because we're in early college and we have to transfer grades from the university into our high school system. It's not an automatic process. So every once in a while, you know, a kid will have taken a class and it's not on their transcript. And it's just a matter of either the college professor maybe didn't issue a grade, they skipped it, grade wasn't recorded, or, you know, we just missed it. And I found that very valuable. I mean, it tends to be mostly of classes that, you know, would obviously benefit the student, but it was just something they took that we just didn't have on there. And so I think to involve them in the process, that's like huge, because it's like saying, this is your transcript, you know, we take a look at it, see if there's anything that we missed. And it's, I don't know, it's a good chance for them to kind of give us feedback on something. Well, you know, you forgot the lab I took with chemistry, and I get credit for that, or, you know, whatever it was that they took that isn't on there. So I always found that helpful.
I agree. And it also teaches them how to read a transcript. I mean, especially if they're going off to college, like they're not done with this process of understanding credits and GPAs and all of that. So I think it's a really great teaching strategy as well. So as you all heard while they were talking, there are also certain kind of variations or, you know, I guess requirements when it comes to different grade levels, but also students who have, you know, those dual credit courses and things like that. We heard Marilee say, you know, she starts with her seniors because they're the most demanding and making sure they have everything that they need because they're the closest to graduation. Can anyone else speak to or share any information on the audits or processes that they do for, you know, to disclose the variations, like from a 9th grader, 10th, 11th, 12th grader, and how this transcript audit may different or how you maybe view them differently?
For our freshmen, when we do their audits, obviously when they get registered, their slate is blank. So we just make sure that their classes they're enrolled in the classes that they need. And at the semester time is when I have them go in and I have them start looking at their semester grades. And that's where we can identify who needs to come in to do credit recovery or to come to summer school at that point. Here at Alamogordo High School, our freshmen and our sophomores do credit recovery in the summertime, or they'll do credit recovery classes during the school time. Our accelerated classes are reserved for our juniors and our seniors. So we try to limit how many, you know, of our lower classmen get to take up the space in the classes that our upperclassmen might need. So they do summer school. And then it helps us identify who's are at risk and high risk and the students that might need the help throughout their high school career. And we do those credits. So they're being done, the audits are being done at the beginning, middle, and at the end of the school year. And it's kind of like every time you open up a student's transcript when they come in, that's one of the things that we do have our counselors do is if a student comes in to talk to you, we ask that you pull up the transcript, you hand them the transcript and you kind of go over it as you're talking about everything else.
Awesome. All right. So here is, I think, my last little poll question. So if you would go back to the poll everywhere and let's see. Oh, I can't see. That's why. There we go. Finally figured it out on the third one. If I can get this to go over. All right, the last one. I'm going to present this one. How would you describe the transcript process? So just kind of hearing briefly about what counselors are doing, the time it takes, all the information that they're gathering. How would you describe this task for school counselors? You can type in a word, a sentence, however. Mhm. So I see time consuming, overwhelming, graduation, monitoring, intentional, convoluted, progress. Yes, all of these words and so many more. And again, this takes us back to where we first started with why the counselor principal relationship is so important, because this is a very important job, a task that we are doing. And if when we're on the same page and we understand the goals and the purpose of what we're doing and how we want to support our students, then that helps us to make sure that we're getting all this information right, because we do have to be intentional with what we're doing when it comes to transcripts. And that's going to lead us into my next slide with how we use this data from transcripts. So it's a whole lot that goes into this process of reviewing transcripts, making sure all the students have the right courses, that their credits are aligning with the graduation requirements, double checking GPAs, looking at the graduation percentage, retention rates, any risks that we may have, all the pass-fail stuff. There's a lot of data that is collected from these transcripts, and we have to use it. But before we use it, most of us have end of year reports. And so there may come a point in time, I know for me, I would be like, okay, it's end of year reports time. I just need a moment. And sometimes I would have to kind of close my door, because you have to be extremely careful and meticulous with what you're doing, because this information is vital to the students and also for the school. So end of year reports, counselors, what do those look like for you? What kind of reports do you guys have coming up right now that you'll be working on? Anything that you have to report to admin, district?
I don't know if it's like an official, I don't think official reports or anything, but I know we run lots of reports that we use for our information. Definitely we just ran like end of grading period, third grading period, pass fail. Seniors are the focus. We ran the SAT and the ASRs, see who took it, who didn't. I know right now it's just the attempt of it, but making sure we know those. I know someone had mentioned if they were sick, that's what we're trying to do, is get them all in, make sure that they get them so they don't have to do the retakes in the fall. We're also verifying just with dual credit, are they still on track? Are they passing? If we get a notification that they're not doing well, kind of checking in with them. We do a lot of our students that may be seeing, we have interns as well as us, and we have a school-based health center that has mental health services. We're kind of checking in and seeing with the students what support they'll have through the summer. Our school-based health center will be open over the summer, but will the students have access to be able to make it to the school to see their therapist if they need some check-ins through the summer? Because even though it's a shorter summer, it's still some time that we could, worry about kids. As far as students that have maybe had a substance offense this year, we had had some classes done here, and so we check in. Our interns check in with those students about how they're doing, if there's been any more offenses, kind of how they're doing. So obviously GPA reports for honors and things like that at the end of the year. So a lot of reports that we actually run to get information. Maybe we don't actually share the information, or we don't give the reports to other people. We get the reports more, is what I would say for me.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I agree. The reports that we have to run are those that are going to do summer school. Students that want to graduate early, we got to start pulling those ones out. Pass or fail, sending out, doing the graduation letters that you're not graduating. High risk. Yeah, those are all the reports that we end up pulling out right now. And then numbers for graduation. So that way we can give it to our principals, because they typically ask us who's graduating, who's going to be our 5th year seniors, who's coming back in the summer, where are they at, attendance, some attendance stuff. We have a truancy officer, so I just knock on his door and get it from him.
So principals, there are a ton of reports that school counselors run in order to collect data. Majority of the time, if you walk into one of, our offices and say, hey, do you have a report for this? Most likely we do. So we can provide you with a ton of information. And that goes back to that relationship and just making sure we have, that communication in place so that we can share it with you all. All right. Lastly, well, not lastly, but a really big thing is, how does all of this information impact the upcoming school year? So once we gather all of this data, why is it so important, especially moving forward to the next school year? This is a big one because it helps you to prep and move forward. So you have all of your students, you're doing your course tallies. These are the big ones that I always stand out to me: course tallies, teacher numbers, and scheduling. So you're talking about, the master schedule, what classes you're going to offer, how many kids are going to be in each classroom, and that affects teacher numbers and classroom spaces and things like that. So this is a really big deal, and usually, something that, is really great when we have that counselor principal relationship in place, so that it can be communicated to the principal so they can help, kind of with the leadership, from leadership down, to help decide what the upcoming school year is going to look like. Any insight, or anybody want to share any information on this and maybe experiences and the importance of it? All right. So that's fine. So again, just with all of the reports and information that's pulled, there's really a lot of data to show and to help guide principals to make really great decisions, informed decisions about how to properly prepare for the upcoming school year. Again, if you're looking at classroom size and you're looking at the amount of teachers that you have, I know some principals and people are concerned with funding and how they can plan and prepare for, if they need more teachers, or if they have to let teachers go, unfortunately. But right around this time, once we get through all the testing and finalize transcripts, that's like the next big thing, is looking at the schedule and deciding who's teaching what and where kids are going. And when you're looking at the data behind everything that comes from the transcript, because in the beginning I said the transcript is kind of like the foundation, everything stems from it because of the data, the information that's on it. But once you have all of that, again, it's a really great blueprint, a beautiful blueprint that it can provide you with details for how to best move forward. So here we're going to talk a little bit about student supports. I received a couple questions from the principals, and I did want to spend some time just kind of diving into this and giving you all some feedback, and then we will open up for discussions if there's anything else that you want to hear about. But let me back up just for a little bit. So we've talked a lot about transcripts, again, because that's really that's like the law. That's like the governing piece of paper for all students and for schools. It holds all of the most important information. It shows, overall collectively how, well a school is doing in general when you're looking at test scores and GPAs, fail rates, retention rates. Again, a lot of really great information that there are pooled reports for. So although, you may or may not be, I should have put that question on here. How comfortable are you with, reviewing or understanding a transcript? If you are comfortable with it, great. But if not, that's really a great kind of conversation to have with your school counselor, because this is definitely right up our lane. This is, at the core of who we are, is understanding transcripts and making sure our students are getting what they need. And how to matriculate through high school. Early on, Christina was saying, just understanding that we're academic too. Yes, we are that mental health, SEL, person to support students, but academically, we're like your go-to person. Come to us if you need information on these graduation requirements, how each cohort is doing, and what's needed in order to help students succeed academically, because we're helping students succeed by, talking with them and guiding them. So really, again, it goes back to that principal school counselor relationship. So next, I do want to jump into student supports. These were a few questions that we received. So counselors, if you guys can kind of help me kind of dive into this. So right here at the end of the year, what does advising look like for you all? Because in addition to everything we've already talked about, there's still the students. Students are still there with you all. What does advising look like when it comes to maybe graduation, the transition, opportunities? What are you doing there to help students?
We started working on our scheduling, part of our scheduling for next year. So what we've done, we have an advisory class, and we've had them go in and select their courses. And in due time, they'll be calling us because they want to know what classes they need to take next. So we pull them in, talk to them, and start talking to them about the pathways they want to choose. If they want to go to college, they want to do the dual credit, things that they're interested in. So we start these conversations come around February, March timeframe to get ready for next year. So it's kids are coming in and out of our offices all the time to do that. Graduation, I've been pulling students in since October and talking to them about their FAFSAs and scholarships and stuff like that. So that's how we kind of do that end of year advisory. It kind of started at the beginning of the year to do the end of the year, to be honest with you.
So same, I think we talked about this when we had met, that whether you were in Santa Fe, Gallup, wherever you were, a lot of things seem to be the same, but a lot of different takes on doing things. I know one thing, how our school's helping students to be more successful at online learning. We've kind of come out, we're more, everything is back to paper and hands-on. We do still use Canvas as our learning management system, but not all teachers use it, but we have that. And we have at our school, we have probably about 45 kids that are still online, which is a pretty small number compared to our total number. But we all have the students that are at home. They are still considered part of our schools. They just take their classes at home. So they have the support of their counselors. They can come in. We do have students that come in and some do sports, some do music. So they still have that support. They have a learning coach that checks in on them once a week. If they're struggling, communicates with the parents, communicates with the students. The online students, we did online registration with them for next year. So we really don't let them be, they're still part of us. They are all encouraged to take dual credit courses, as well as participate in our internship programs that we have. participate again, sports and things like that. Parent involvement. I know one thing that our district in Las Cruces, we have a position that was created, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. It's our International Welcome Center, and it's a person, or she's our we're blessed to have new, and she's really good about, she does WIDA testing, access testing, any of the testing that they need to do. She transcribes all of our foreign transcripts, so it's really nice. She went to a big training a couple of years ago, and she got training on definitely Mexico transcripts, but as well as some other countries that we tend to frequently guest. But she is a point of contact for the parents. She also works really well with our McKinney-Vento staff, our district staff, to find resources for parents, homeless things, or homeless, and people that are homeless and have need there. So I definitely think we have, for our first generation college students, having them have the access, if they're an independent student getting the independent paperwork. So we're blessed. We use her as well a lot with graduation. She works with our students that are getting the New Mexico bilingual seal, and for those first generation students that maybe they will earn that seal. So that's kind of things that we do at our school.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? So if you have any of these questions, I mean, we can just dive in. So that was Marilee, you touched on all of them for us, and I appreciate you for doing that. Are there any interventions and strategies that you all are using to support struggling students? So right here at the end of the year, you know, we're seeing our high-risk students. We're seeing students that are maybe, you know, struggling with feeling burnt out or senioritis, any types of things that's happening. What are some interventions or strategies that you all may use to support these students?
So it's almost a scare tactic, and I hate to say it like that, but when our seniors are starting to kind of like, you can feel them kind of giving up and they're overwhelmed. They come in and they talk to me, but I pull in the principal because she has a great, like this great vibe about her that she kind of calms them down a little bit. I think they're more afraid of her than they are of me. They're just like, oh my God, she's nagging me. So I bring the principal in as my go-to person, and I rely on her, so that way we kind of team up together and they realize that they're not alone. So that's how I utilize my principal a lot. So we had to pull in students to let them know that they had to come back. We pull the students in when they're like, you can tell that they're failing on their grades and kind of struggling. And we give them supports that they need. We're working closely with NMSUA talent search right now. So if they're a little all over the place because of finances and stuff like that in regards to going to college, just kind of let them know that they're not alone. And our Sunny Disposition, our principal there, she really helps them kind of calm down to let them know that she's there for them, and that helps them out a lot, to be honest with you. I'm the nagger. She gets to, it's a bad cop, good cop type of doing.
It's working, so hey.
It's working for me, so I'll take it.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. It seems to have really helped when we get the student and the parent in. We identified probably close to half a dozen students that were really kind of high risk, just based on maybe some of the grades that they had in the fall that weren't too hot. And most of our seniors graduate. We require 29 credits, but most of them graduate with more than that. But we do have some who've they've just had issues with certain classes, and so we kind of identified the ones that really we were most worried about, and we brought the student in and the parent, sat down, and I have a senior agreement contract, and I have them sign it, and we try to make it clear to the both the parent and the student that, look, we want you to graduate. We want to do everything we possibly can so that you're done in May. You graduate, you get your diploma. We try to get from them, is there anything that we can do for you? Is there something that you need that we haven't been giving you, et cetera, et cetera. I guess time will tell if how well it works, but it's at least you've got like the parents and the student there and everybody's kind of on the same page and they all know. So there's not these, these kind of surprises like, oh, I didn't know he's missing this, he's missing that, or he has to do these classes. So I don't know. Like I say, time will tell.
Well, one thing that has stood out that all of you have said, that's vital for students is that, that village, that community support where, it's just not you with the students, you're bringing in the principal, you're talking with the parents, you're creating that team of people that can wrap around this student to help them to see that they're not alone and that, they have the support that's there in place. So doing some great things there, even just on the school level, of course, that kind of boils down to, for strategies like goal planning, or as simple as like to-do lists, just, taking things one day at a time, just trying to help students to get back on track because sometimes it happens, and especially, and unfortunately, we see it a lot towards the end of the school year. So if anybody else having to support online learners? Because I know Marilee kind of talked on that a little bit. I didn't know if anybody else had any online learners. That was one of the questions. All right. And then what about as far as parent involvement? Any ideas for supports or things that you have tried that you have found to be successful on working with students and families?
We had a parent center and we did it over COVID, and it was the idea we brought our parents on like PTA type of deal thing, and we were trying to do it that way, but the same parents showed it. We have 1,700 students, we only had 5 parents show up, and it was the same ones all the time. So I wished it would have taken off. We used to have PTA and the same 5 parents would show up. Our principal this year started doing newsletters, and that seemed to garner a little bit more input, like she gets emails and stuff like that. But I believe next year she was going to try to do another type of parent center meeting to where we kind of give them an idea, kind of give them a heads up of what's going on at the high school. But the newsletter seems to be working for her to get the message out to parents as to what's going on. It's kind of hard to, they're working all the time, and that's what they tell us we can't. They're working. We even had our parents center at 7 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, hoping that, you're virtual, you can hop on, and it just didn't take off the way we wanted it to. We had the military base hop on, and our 3 parents and 1 parent that would yell at us. And so it was that one wasn't successful. I wish it would take off. So if anybody else has any ideas.
Absolutely. There's definitely barriers when it comes to, work with students and families. I'm happy to hear that you all try something new as far as like newsletters, because we definitely have to, figure out the best way to support our school, and every school is different, right? And that's where, that needs assessment comes in to place, and just really just learning more about our families and the communities that we serve.
And Holly, I just want to piggyback off of that. I threw some things in the chat, and I see Jamisa did as well. Even though I was a principal, I taught secondary, but I was principal at elementary. And, everybody struggles with communication and trying to get parents involved. Now, I know at elementary level, we use Class Dojo. And I got my husband is at the high school level, so he uses the Remind. And that works tremendously because, it's coming to their cell phones. Even if it's the newsletter, you can send the newsletter out to their cell phones because, most people keep their cell phones in their hands. Most of the schools that I've always worked with have been in the Title I population. So lunch and learns or coffee with principals usually work because we offered the lunch. And most of the lunches and learns that we did, we didn't have to pay for them. Like we had restaurants donate the food. And it would like 1 week, because our school did like the CC's pizza night. So 1 week we'll have CC's for, lunch. We had Longhorn night. So one day we'll have Longhorn for lunch, and they'll provide that good bread with the honey butter and salads and all of this good stuff. And so I think for us, anytime we can typically tie food and some type of incentive into it. I also, a new gas station opened up by my school last year before I started working for NS for Ed. And it was a 7-Eleven, and they gave us 711 gas cards.
Mhm.
And so I kept those, and I would do like raffles for parents who participated in like my lunch and learns or my coffees with the principal. So, if they came, I would do a raffle, and I would put it like a video on like the Remind, or for me, it was my class dojo, and the kids would get excited. I would tell them to send their kid to my office the next morning, and I would have the kids, my mom won the whatever. And so it got them excited too about their parents participating. So those are just some ideas. And then like Jimmy said, also share YouTube, and then again with Facebook. That's where our parents are. My son's school, I know his principal did a Facebook Live every week. It got on my nerves, and it's saved on Facebook, and you can link Facebook and YouTube, so that it's always in both places. And so if a parent does miss it, they can get the information there. So that was a lot, but just sharing some ideas and getting the parents involved.
Awesome feedback.
like
Yes. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. All right, let's go on. All right, so now open discussion. So we've kind of talked about a lot of things, a lot about academic, and then a little bit about, student supports and parent involvement. So now, what questions, do you have any other questions for us as school counselors?
Holly, I have a question that's not necessarily for the school counselor panel. I know that one of the things we talked about sharing was the updated next step plan. I know that's been put on hold. Can you give us a status update for that?
It is still on hold. The information has been shared with New Mexico PED. They have copies of it, but at this point in time, it is on hold. I'm not sure if it was, all of the details behind it, but with all of the changes with the graduation requirements, I'm sure that played a huge part in it. But just making sure that whenever we do publish it and get it out there, that it is something that is, again, is easy to use, accessible for families, for students, for schools, that it has all of the accurate information on it. So we are really being intentional and with the information that we put on it, because we do hope that this is something that all high schools can use so that they can all be on the same page. Because currently I know that there's a lot of different next step plans and different documents that are out there. And so really just trying to create more of a one-stop shop place for New Mexico, so everyone can be on the same page. So again, just to clarify, just right now, it is still on hold. Hopefully we'll hear something about it soon, and maybe by next school year, it can be launched.
One thing I think that will be interesting to the early college people that may not have heard it yet, the plan is that this will be a digital format. So if students transfer, you've got access to what's been done before, correct?
Yes, correct. So everything, like I said, one-stop shop, everything is housed in one document, all of their courses, their pathways, test scores, even a copy of their current or past transcripts, any certifications that they're taking. There's some accountability pieces that are plugged into it with signatures. It's really, I'm excited about it. I'm probably biased towards it because I created it, but I really tried to gather everything to put it in one document so you're not having to go all over the place. But it will transfer to wherever in New Mexico. Every student has their own unique link to the next step plan, and all they have to do is share that link with their net school counselor, advisor, teacher, whoever they're working with, mentoring with, and they can click on it, open it up, and see exactly where the student is. Again, all in one place, so it's a one-stop shop. I think it's a pretty beautiful format. But
excuse me, Holly, there is, and this is one-time funding, non-recurring. There's 1.1 million that's set aside for next step plan and developing a graduation profile.
That's what Breezy was talking about, and they're in the process of discussing and working on how that's going to look now. So,
and Kelly, when or at least when you hear it from me, when I say non-recurring, that is because that set of dollars was given for that particular academic year. Does not mean that the feds won't look at that and how you spent your money and then tell the state that they need to continue on with that. So it's not necessarily it's just one-time funding, but just so that you understand something.
well, that's really good to hear. Great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can move forward with it very soon, because I do think that is something that will benefit students, schools, the counselors, advisors, everyone. I think it's really a really great opportunity for everyone to be on the same page and to see and monitor how students grow and progress throughout their high school journey. Are there any other questions? Well, all right. Well, we appreciate you for allowing us this opportunity to, and I'm going to say, start this conversation. And we hope that maybe in the future that we can pick this back up and join you all again, because as we said from the very beginning, it's just not a one, not a seasonal thing or something that happens, at the end of the year, the beginning of the year. It really is kind of like a fluid process, and having this principal school counselor relationship can really help us to best to grow together collectively, and also individually within our roles, but also how to help us to best support our students and school community moving forward. So I hope to continue this conversation with you all in the future. And there are so many more topics that we can discuss. I mean, I know that, I could go on and on and on, but counselors, we wear several hats, and there's a lot that we do within your school. So whenever you see your school counselors, be sure to say thank you, and we appreciate you, because there's a lot that we're doing. And we know that you're doing a lot too, and we appreciate you. But it's the end of the school year. Everybody has a lot going on. So give grace. Give us some grace. We're going to get through this. And again, thank you for this time.
thank you, Holly, and thank you, counselors. Let's jump straight on in to some time to discuss and collaborate with one another. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jamisa. Jamisa, did you want me to share, or were you going to share?
I can share, but first let me just reiterate the importance of that strong counselor-principal relationship. I sat over here and had a mini nightmare about a time when a student had a grade change, like college was over, transcripts were done, grades were turned in, graduation programs were complete. He did extra work in his college course, and they changed his grade. It bumped his GPA into like that summa cum laude range, and the programs were printed. And everybody was in a panic because it was like thousands of dollars for the programs to get printed. And in order to make this it was like a catch. And then the counselor went back and looked at GPAs and recalculated some stuff and verified, like, yeah, this is going to change the way he presents as a graduate. And then all the programs had to be redone. I mean, it was like a panic attack. And so as I was listening to all the things that counselors do, just a huge thank you to counselors for that work, because it certainly keeps students on track, as well as like teachers and principals for making informed decisions for actually how the school runs. I'm going to share my screen, And we're going to talk a little bit today. We're going to have a discussion. I'm going to provide some background before we get into that discussion, just very, very quickly. So let me go straight into, you should see on your screen, robust student supports. So I'm going to do a brief review of that. So here's my agenda for the next 20 or 30 minutes. We're going to review robust student supports, types of student supports, the meaning of robust, and then go to breakout rooms and discuss robust student supports, and then we will close. So this came from the New Mexico Early College High School Toolkit Policy Manual, and it just lays out what are robust student support. So essentially, the goal here is that in the early college high school, students can complete up to 6 years of work in just 4 years. And so ultimately, the belief is that students are underprepared when they enter the 9th grade for that type of compressed, accelerated learning, and that student supports are a proven way to support students in transitioning from high school to college, and just to have the essential skills they need to be academically successful. I picked this slide background in particular because like that red piece for me is a visual like a bridge, right? And so each side of the red piece is like high school, college, and then that red piece, those are your student supports that will get your students successfully from one place to the other academically. There are 2 types of student support systems that are identified as effective and should be used by New Mexico PED. And that is a system of support through teacher contact. This is your academic support, right? So for academic support, the curriculum should include a system of student support through teacher contact, tutoring, study groups, review sessions, homework guidance, summer sessions, learning labs, etc. I think the goodness in the way this is written in this is that it gives actual examples of ways that you can provide academic supports for students. And then the second part is for career and academic counseling. It should include career and academic counseling, such as college planning sessions, college application and funding workshops, linkage with business mentors, including workplace experiences, academic development tracking and review, which goes back to even those transcripts. Increase, sometimes gradual exposure to post-secondary institutions and processes. And this again goes back to, as Holly was talking about, like that academic advising piece as they are transitioning in early college and beyond. And so this is the graphic that again is noted in that toolkit policy manual. And it just shows the same thing that I just said in a different way, right? Student support systems can be branched into 2 areas, the first of which is academic support, and then the second is career and academic counseling. So I want to lay on this definition of robust, right? Because in New Mexico, it is robust student support. So when I looked up robust, like just exactly what does that mean? Because it's obviously a very important word, the way it is noted as part of student supports. And it says strong and healthy or vigorous. So now I'm going to share with you like something quirky, right? And it's because I want this to kind of stick with you as you go into your discussions about robust student supports.
Rated PG streaming soon. Thick like homemade, no way around it. Prego so good, they might as well crown it. Your sauce is looking thin, huh? Fix that quick. When you're in my house, you pour it on thick.
That's it, right?
Rated PG streaming soon.
Second. So Prego sauce, you pour it on thick, right? And that's the thing about robust student supports that I want you to remember as you go into your conversation. When you are supporting students academically, there's so much to support, right? You could be supporting the mentality of first generation. You could be supporting or helping to mitigate the barrier of language. even BIPOC populations who have different experiences in the classroom. You could be supporting students who are typically high performers, but have never experienced a college scenario before and are just struggling not only academically, but mentally with how to manage the work, right? And so you got to pour it on thick. You have to make sure that the students are appropriately covered by the supports that they need to see academic support, to see academic success. And so now let's have a robust conversation about student supports. So Kelly is going to, in a second, divide us into 3 or 4 breakout rooms. It will be randomized, and you'll just go there in a moment when I'm like, hey, let's go to those rooms. And then each group will have a room facilitator. There will be, I will facilitate a room, Dr. Howard will facilitate a room, and Winelyn Bell Glenn, who's joining us, also will facilitate a room. And then the first 2 to 3 minutes in the group, you're just going to add ideas to the Padlet, which is linked to the QR code. I'm going to also put the link to the Padlet in the chat before we go into those rooms. And so you're just going to go in that Padlet. It's divided into 4 sections. It's going to range from types of student support, which we heard a little bit about from Holly and the counselor panel, all the way to like the logistics, like how you do it and when you do it. And so when you get in your groups, your facilitator will introduce themselves. And then I want you to spend a couple of minutes just adding to the Padlet before we talk about who's in the group. And then we'll call time. And I want you to introduce yourself with your name, your professional role, and why robust student supports are important to your work. We're all here for a reason, and we do carry various roles, but it's important to know like who's who and what they do to support those supports. And then finally, you're going to talk about 10 or 15 minutes about what you see on the Padlet. Your room facilitator may take one section at a time, and then you feel free to add ideas to what you're hearing, to question ideas and practices verbally and on the Padlet, and consider what is being shared for your own implementation. And again, you can make comments on the Padlet, and you can do so verbally as well. And that will help to move forward this conversation about robust student supports. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I just want to say this to everyone. Wait a second. Am I still here? Okay, yes. I want to say this to everyone. It's the end of the year, and it's about time where people start going, finals are coming up. What are your grades looking like? What is your GPA? Where do you need help preparing for your exams? Or where do you need help right now? Just do you need tutoring? Like, we need to lift students up. And it's really not too little too late at this point. Just, it's never too late. So this really is the time to activate your supports in such a way that students feel like, I might be struggling and need a little bit of help. So let me ask for that, or let me take advantage of that. Giving like a whole talk on like,
Kelly, don't just kick me out my room now.
It was getting good. It was good.
I did a 5-minute warning, a 1-minute warning.
I didn't get a 5-minute warning. I got a 1-minute warning. I got the 1-minute warning and then kicked out.
I'm so sorry. I thought I brought
Why didn't you tell me I was running out of time?
Sorry.
Well,
no, it was good. Good discussion.
My team does like to talk.
Well, thank you, everyone. The Padlet has a lot of stuff on there, and so I really appreciate your participation and just kind of collecting some ideas. When we got pulled out of here, I was talking about the differences between the strategies column and the problems and solutions column is due to having or lacking relationships with whomever, right? Student to teacher, student to counselor, counselor to principal, principal to counselor, teacher to counselor, right? Like those parents to a school, all those relationships are necessary to exist in a space that creates support for students. So I'm going to share my last slide.
And while you're sharing your computer, I will post the Padlet link too, so everyone can revisit that.
Thank you, Kelly. My last slide is just this, right? And it's just closure for all of this and food for thought. Robust is an adjective that describes student supports. An adjective, as we all know, is a word or phrase added to a noun to modify or describe it. When you're doing your work every day, why do you think they would add this type of descriptor, the word robust, to student supports? Because we say student supports all the time. But for some reason, adding the word robust takes it to another level, right? Just like that Prego, put it on thick. And how does the word robust require additional action toward your impact? Because if you're doing something in a robust way, there's nothing about it that's like basic or regular or daily. It has to be upscaled. It has to be thick. It has to be intentional and responsive in a way that really makes a difference for students. And so today was just like a 5-minute conversation to get us thinking about robust student support. I believe that the conversation is absolutely timely because Holly and the counselors were talking about student supports and how they look and how counselors apply data as a mechanism for supporting students. And then we had this nice, robust conversation about type strategies, logistics for student supports. And it is not expected that every student gets the same thing or that every school provides supports in the same way. But it is expected that there is a provision in place for ensuring students are getting robust support when and where needed to see academic success at school. And so thank you again. I'm going to stop sharing for your participation today. I hope that at least if you didn't walk away with a new idea, at least in the forefront of your day tomorrow might be, let me think about the support I'm giving, right? Because it might not look like the thing you think. We actually talked about in our group, like breakups, like students breaking up in the middle of the day in the 10th grade. And that is a tragedy for that student. And so how are they doing in class after that breakup? I don't know. There's some SEL opportunity right there. And that is a robust student support, right? So it covers a multitude of action for students in the now so that they can do the best they can every day at school. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it back over to Kelly.
Thanks. I do have a couple of quick announcements before we close out. The slides, the Padlet, and the recording, minus breakout rooms, will be on the resource site. And I've just pasted the link there. Also, once I've had the opportunity to meet with Breezy and put a survey together around funding, I'm going to get it out to everyone via email. As I know funding is important, it comes up often in discussions. And I keep asking PD for early college funding on your behalf. Please, 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 when it comes out, take a few minutes to complete that survey. I'm not exactly sure on the timing. It depends on when Breezy and I get together, but as soon as I can get that out, I will get it out to you. Also, as we came together today for this virtual convening, we will not be having a check-in meeting tomorrow. Breezy had to leave at 1, but she had no further announcements. She did make the couple that she had. So as soon as we finish here today, I will send out a cancellation notice of tomorrow's meeting. Our next regularly scheduled check-in meeting is Tuesday, May 16th at 10 a.m. Are there any other announcements? I want to thank Jamisa, the rest of my team, counselors for your help, and everyone else for coming today. You guys have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.